There is no question that, at the very least, the Detroit Lions are one of the most injured teams in the NFL this season. We already know the Lions have the most players on injured reserve in total entering Week 17, so it's certainly safe to call Detroit the most injured team. But what about the number of Week 1 starters on injured reserve or out? Well, no surprise, the Lions lead the NFL in that category with a whopping 31.8% of their opening day starters on the shelf. However, believe it or not, the Lions aren't alone in first place in that unfortunate category. They are actually tied with the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that also sports 31.8% of its Week 1 starters either on injured reserve or out with an injury. It's unfathomable to think that another team is having anything close to the injury issues the Lions have had, but here we are. Of course, the major difference is that Detroit has been able to overcome its issues, while the Raiders clearly have not. That speaks to the culture the Lions have built, but more importantly, the roster that general manager Brad Holmes has constructed. At the very least, the Raiders are lacking the talent necessary to thrive in the wake of their injuries. As the playoffs loom, the Lions are hoping to get back at least a few key players in running back David Montgomery and linebacker Alex Anzalone. Montgomery is expected back by the divisional round, and Anzalone could make it back before that. If the Lions can make a deep playoff run, it's possible they could see cornerback Carlton Davis and edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson return. Davis has a shot to be back by the NFC Championship game based on his recovery timeline, and Hutchinson has said he's targeting the Super Bowl. But first things first, the Lions have to make it there before we can even have that discussion. Detroit will first look to wrap up the NFC North and number 1 seed in the conference, something they can do in Week 17. The Detroit Lions got their first extended look at 6th-round pick Christian Mahogany in Sunday's 34-17 win over the Chicago Bears. Mahogany started in place of Graham Glasgow, who was out with a knee injury. At this present juncture, Coach Dan Campbell expects Glasgow to recover his post at left guard for Monday's game against the San Francisco 49ers. "I see Graham coming back," Campbell said. "I think he's going to be ready to roll, and he's going to slip right back at left guard and start for us. It's going to be great." The rookie had a 70.6 overall Pro Football Focus grade in Sunday's game and allowed 1 pressure on 33 pass-blocking snaps. While Mahogany will likely be relegated to a backup role in the immediate future, he showed plenty of promise in his first career start against the Bears. It was the continuation of a process that began when Mahogany was first reinstated to the active roster on October 30. The rookie showcased a knack for blocking downfield in the screen game Sunday, including on the play below that resulted in a big gain for running back Jahmyr Gibbs. Since then, the Boston College product has usurped Kyoto Waska on the depth chart, as Awaska has been inactive dating back to the team's game against Indianapolis. Mahogany, meanwhile, has earned the backup role and as a result was inserted into the starting lineup on Sunday with Glasgow out. Campbell noted that Mahogany has shown necessary growth in practice, and recent weeks have provided the team an opportunity to learn what it has in the rookie and game situations. The Detroit Lions made a ton of roster moves ahead of their Week 16 game against the Chicago Bears, with one of them being the team-cutting safety Brandon Joseph Luce. A 2023 undrafted free agent signing of Detroit, Joseph spent last year on the Lions' practice squad before making the 53-man roster out of training camp this year. He appeared in all 14 games prior to his release, playing 182 snaps on defense and another 97 on special teams. On the morning of his release, Joseph was arrested for suspicion of operating under the influence, Dearborn Heights police told the Detroit Free Press's Dave Burkett, which was figured to be behind the Lions' decision to let Joseph go. Dearborn Heights police tell me Brandon Joseph, who was waived by the Lions this afternoon, was pulled over for speeding on Michigan Avenue and arrested for suspicion of operating under the influence, Burkett reported. They stress he was completely compliant, detained, and released. While Joseph's arrest played a role in the Lions letting him go, head coach Dan Campbell revealed that the roster crunch also contributed to the move. Dan Campbell said Brandon Joseph's release was the perfect storm. Combination of roster crunch and the off-field incident. Said he felt like he had to make that move, Burkett wrote. Prior to the win over the Bears, the Lions activated safety Ifeatu Melifonwu off the injured reserve list, which made letting Joseph go even easier. Melifonwu played 51 snaps and allowed Brian Branch to work out of the slot, which in turn allowed Amick Robertson to play on the boundary to cover for the injured Carlton Davis. Melifonwu wasted no time making an impact, as he tallied 1 sack, 3 pressures, and he didn't allow a reception on the lone target thrown his way, according to Pro Football Focus. The Lions will be back in action on Monday night in Week 17 when they host the San Francisco 49ers, the team that beat them in the NFC Championship game last season. The Niners have already been eliminated from playoff contention, while the Lions have an opportunity to lock up the #1 seed in NFC North with a win and a Minnesota Vikings loss to the Green Bay Packers. Brian Branch missed Monday's game against the Seattle Seahawks with an illness, and Detroit Lions coach Dan Campbell insisted after the game that Branch's absence had nothing to do with the brain injury he suffered last week. "No, he passed the protocol," Campbell said. "He's been sick, and so we don't know what that is, and it's not worth it." "I don't know what it is. I know he's sick, so that's what it was." Branch was a limited participant in practice early last week after he left the Lions' Week 3 win over the Arizona Cardinals following a helmet-to-helmet collision with tight end Trey McBride. Branch passed concussion protocol Saturday and was not given a game designation on the Lions' weekly injury report, making him clear to play against the Seahawks. The Lions added Branch to the injury report with an illness Sunday and listed him as doubtful for the game. Brandon Joseph made his first career start Monday in Branch's absence. He had 6 tackles and played 89 of a possible 90 defensive snaps in the Lions' 42-29 victory. The Lions have a slew of injuries to tend to during this week's bye, but could get Branch and Pro Bowl center Frank Ragnow back in time for their Week 6 game against the Dallas Cowboys. Ragnow suffered a partially torn pectoral muscle against the Cardinals, but finished the game. He did not play Monday against the Seahawks. The Lions also placed defensive end Marcus Davenport, linebacker Derek Barnes, and safety Ifeatu Melifonwu on injured reserve last week. Davenport is out for the season, Melifonwu must miss at least the next 4 games, and Barnes is out indefinitely with a knee injury. Campbell said the bye week is coming at a welcome time for his team, though the Lions will face a taxing stretch of 13 games in as many weeks to close the regular season. "You'd rather have the bye at the end of October-November," Campbell said. "But we're banged up a little bit. We play a pretty physical brand of football. We played some physical opponents these first 4 weeks, and so I do think it's coming at a good time. And it's good to get the 3 wins. It's good to get to 3-1 with this bye. We rest up, we heal up, we get fresh again, and then we make a big push." Dave Burkett will sign copies his new book, Detroit Lions, an illustrated timeline, from 10 a.m., noon, Saturday, at Pro Sports Zone in Laurel Park Place. Order it now from Reedy Press. The Detroit Lions receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, just ran a route that even Tom Brady has never seen before. St. Brown, who showed up to Sunday's game at Lambeau Field wearing a Green Bay Sucks hoodie, caught a 3-yard touchdown pass on 4th and goal from Jared Goff to open the second quarter for a 7-3 Lions lead over the Packers. St. Brown came in motion from right to left, and the ball was snapped as he passed the left tackle. After a few more steps, he stuttered his feet like he was going to run an angle route back inside, but turned back upfield. Cornerback Casey Nixon had decent coverage, but Goff lofted a beautiful ball which St. Brown high-pointed, then got both feet down and controlled the ball through the ground. "Yes, now that's a catch," Sharon Moore. "Wait till you see this route. I've never seen a route like this," an entertained Brady said. "Goff makes a great throw in tough conditions," Brady continued. "What a player St. Brown is, and Goff has all the trust in the world in him. What an answer." St. Brown celebrated by standing on his head for a second before falling over.